brand new week is here again. Hello, thank you for joining us from wherever you are. We're coming to you live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. Our top stories this hour. Ghana prepares for the Africa Cup of Nations 2021 as qualifiers continue next month. Today, we play Qatar in a friendly match in Turkey. We have a build-up to that game as the Black Stars test their readiness to meet Sudan at the qualifiers. We have our sports team in the studio to talk about the game. And floods in Accra continue despite huge amounts government claims to have pumped into solving the problem. We go to one of the worst affected areas where residents are threatening to block parts of the Accra-Cape Coast Highway, a road already notorious for slow traffic flow. In 3 days, we set the stage for a battle of ideas among minority political parties. Ahead of that debate, presidential candidate for the Convention People's Party is my guest this afternoon. Got questions for him? Let's hear it all on our social media platforms. Join us on DSTV 41, GoTV 144. We're streaming on YouTube Live. We're also streaming on Facebook. Your thoughts, your questions, if you do have, can come to 0540109009. My name is Gifty Andorpia. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest.
For Corona, and they have Jigui Diarra, Harari Tramari, Haidara Masiudo, and Tori 18-year-old Bilal, who is leading the attack together with Koulibaly Khalifa. He's a winger being deployed at right back by coach Siki Akono. Andre Ayew, lovely chip from Andre, finds Tariq. Tariq sends the ball back to Nicolas Opoku. Jagui Diarra. Well, goalkeeper Jagui Diarra was in that under-20 team that played and defeated Ghana in 2015. It is Mali tearing away. Mali in the box, and yes! The Malians have drawn the first blood. Ghana having their back against the wall. Mali won, Ghana nil. What a start by the Eagles. And guess what? It is Harari Tori, the right fullback. And he was given all the chances in the world to enter into the box. And the Malian captain will definitely smile and give them the lead. Mali won, Ghana nil. And Mali will also play against Namibia. The ball is chipped up front and is headed. Finally cleared. Jordan Ayew. Well, Ghana won by 1-0 in the Cup of Nations in Gabon. Bernard Mensah. Jordan Ayew on the edge of the box. Jordan. Step overs. Final. Once again, unlucky to lose to Harari. So that's Siki Akono. Oh, lovely ball. Haidara Amadu. We've got two Haidaras in the team. Another cross. Oh, yes! The second goal is here, and it is the teenager.
So that's what happened on Friday. Well, in just 30 minutes, the Black Stars will be against Qatar in an international friendly. And it is one of two games for the Stars ahead of their crucial AFCON qualifier against Sudan. And the first of the two played on Friday ended in a 3-0 defeat for the Stars. Today's game at the Madan Sports Complex in Accra, Turkey could be a verdict on coach Siki Akono's capabilities as Ghana's coach. So as we build up to that game, we're joined in the studio by sports journalist George Addo Jr. and Gary Al Smith, who is joining me via Zoom. We'll do an analysis of the team and the chances that they have. Gary, it's good to have you.
Good to be here.
Okay, George, it's good to have you as well. Let me start with Gary. Gary, I was going to say what happened on Friday, but I know it will elicit some kind of negative thoughts. You know, I mean, not negative thoughts, but analysis.
No. It didn't give you any negative thoughts.
Fair enough. I just want to start with what was good for us, so that there's some positive element to begin with. What was good for us? What's working for us?
Well, Siki Akono gave a couple of players their first chance to feature in the Black Stars. And so to the extent that the national team is for everybody, and people always say that, no matter how Ghanaian you are, nobody is more Ghanaian than anybody. The national team is not a family property. It's not a bona fide property of anybody. To that extent, it's good. So we're able to see what those players had to offer, and that was the real positive. But if CK Akono himself, in his post-match briefings to the GFA website and then to our sister station, Adum TV, himself couldn't seem to see any positives, who am I seated behind the screen in Kokomlemle to be able to see positives?
Whom am I? Don't worry, you are the Gary Al Smith. But then let me bring George in. George, help us with a little bit of a background. What should people understand about the game and about the dynamics that we've been working so far, so that it guides us into the next game? Yeah.
Let me try and make it simple. So, Gifty Fest, the team, and for international, competitions like this, international friendlies, and for national teams, they don't often have the time that they would love to have, like clubs who have to prepare and all the time. So mostly it's difficult, and you can understand that there's been COVID, there's been that, there's been this. So there's definitely a challenge in trying to get... Before that,
the love was winning.
Yeah, before the love was winning. Oh, yeah. So definitely there's a challenge in trying to get your team all set. But as you finish saying this for Ghana as an excuse, you look back and say, okay, that Mali had the same conditions. So what happened with Mali, on the other side? That's the first thing to look at. Now, I think another thing that most Ghanaians did note is that when you have a coach handling his first game, there's often a reaction from the players to want to say, I want to be in your team, I want to play. So there's an adrenaline rush. Unfortunately, in the game against Mali, we didn't see any adrenaline rush. So players who were playing in a manner that Ghanaians didn't love. They didn't look like they wanted to run to the ball. They were not quick enough. They were not fast to the balls. They were losing aerial balls and all of that.
Is that a fair judgment?
Just to be fair, yeah, because if you're comparing what we did to Mali, there was a problem with the attitude of the players. That's the first thing that most people spoke about. Okay. Then there were issues with the tactics, from where we're reading things from. And then the coach admitted that, look, his team wasn't organized. He said this, he granted this interview to Songo and said that my team wasn't organized. So all we can say is that it's an international friendly. So yes, sometimes you just do not want to, make this too difficult for the team and say that, don't lose, don't win. Friendlies are meant for experimenting, but how far can you experiment? And the next question is, how much time do you have to experiment? Because your next key game is in November against Sudan. So in as much as you want to experiment, how much time do you have? When you look at the Malian team, they are building on nicely. They have a super development plan. And you can see players who played in the under 17, under 20, under 23 have simply graduated up to the senior national team. So there's a bit of cohesion in this team than our team, which is only expected. Okay. So in as much as we want to give Coach CK Akono the benefit of the doubt that this was the first game, boys were not together, the next game against Qatar is all important. I'm sure what Ghanaians are looking out for is not a result, but more importantly, how well the team plays. If the team plays well and you lose,
the results.
Yeah, the results are great. But I think what Ghanaians are looking out for is, how are these boys going to play well? How are they going to show us that there is something to hope for? Remember, we are still looking for an AFCON. So if you have been given an opportunity, what happens in central defense? And I don't know if we are going there yet, because I was going to go through the team, the last team that played from it, and why we didn't give anybody 3.5.
I'm not your best expert when it comes to analyzing the pitch, but I'm sure people who are watching will understand. So I'll just give you that platform to explain. But let me just bring Gary in. Gary, George speaks about preconditions and then talks about cohesion, okay? And I want to look at the preconditions. If we're talking about preconditions, you take Mali. I mean, we're coming from a place, Ghana is coming from a place where we know that the love was lost. We've been trying, like George said, they've not really had much time. And then the problem about the cohesion. But wouldn't you say that what worked for Mali perhaps is the fact that they have, a security situation, they've had a security situation in their country where, the governance has been roughed up a little bit. So they have a more sense of purpose to win this game, to sort of support, in what's happening in their country. Isn't that a part of the psyche of a player that works for them as well?
It's definitely, those things matter when looking at the especially the emotional motivation for players. So it always matters. However, as you know, I mean, and we know that the president invited the heads of state to the Pediasi Lodge, that meeting, and they resolved it. I saw about 2 or 3 days ago the interim president of Mali thanking Nana Akufo-Addo for all the help, he gave in mediating and all that. But, because these are footballers and it didn't descend into all-out chaos, into all-out war. So I like to think that was not really the thing because of something George mentioned. And it is that, Gifty, Mali have been better than Ghana at all levels for a while. That is the main thing. They have been doing something right that we used to do very well, which I'm sure you have heard many times. Back in the days, we used to pick talents from school, from university, allow them to grow from under 17 to under 20 to under 23. We have stopped doing that. Mali are doing that very well. So if you look at one of the players who scored against Ghana a couple of days ago, the third goal, that same player scored against Ghana when we played in the WAFU tournament and in the qualifiers to one of the World Cups as well. So you see that continuity, Gifty, so that when you see this boy at under 17, you see that, he is promising. Even if the team doesn't do well, 2 years later, you meet him and you are like, didn't I see this boy? And we are like, yes, that's the same guy. But what we do in Ghana is that when a team doesn't do well at under 17 level, because they've not done well, and because we have such a results-oriented psyche, we say, throw them away, and then start another team, which, as we know, is not the best way. So, yes, the political motivation may be there. However, the fact of the matter, and which has been widely agreed to, is that Mali came into this game even better organized than we are from the way they play, even though, yes, all of us, we've not had competitive football action at the national team level due to COVID. Nobody has played international football. But because they have that understanding there, even if they had just 2 days worth of training, it was easy to have that recall. And that's exactly what happened.
And that's the point that George makes about cohesion. And I want to, since you mentioned it and indicated also that the coach admits that his team was not organized, I want us to look at all these that you have said, plus the coach's admittance to what is, and compare it to what is going to happen or what's expected to happen in our next March. Will it mean he's admitted? And I think I've hardly seen coaches admit sometimes when they get these criticisms, after a game. So I don't know if that's a good thing from your perspective or how that can affect how we're going to play. You talked about keeping the team, even if they don't produce a result. Should he, from your perspective, keep the team or change the team after his admittance it wasn't an organized one?
Ooh, that's a very interesting question, and I reckon that even if you open the phone lines right now, everybody or most people, out of 10 calls, you are going to have a sizable chunk saying that X, Y, and Z player should go out of the team because of A, B, and C, and that this player here is doing better and should be brought into the team. So, classic example. In Ghana, one of our biggest issues from time immemorial, Gifty, is that once a player gets beyond the age of 30, they say you are an old player.
Are you not?
So people have already started saying that Dede Ayew should be retired.
I was going to get to Dede, but go ahead, Gary.
Yes, so for example, that's just one. Jordan is 28. People have already started calling him, somebody who is getting to his or past his peak. And this is Jordan Ayew, who was only on Saturday voted by the Sports Writers Association of Ghana as the best footballer in 2019 in Ghana. Ghana's best footballer in 2019. He's been terrific in form. But football worldwide, and particularly in football-obsessed countries like Ghana, is so demanding that one performance is all fans need to say that go away. So whether they should keep the team or not, Siki Akono has also addressed that, thankfully. He has said, he was asked by our man, countryman Songo, that, will the fact that we played so poorly force him to bring our so-called old guard, the players who we have regularly called during Kwesi Appiah's time, like Mubarak Wakaso, like Jonathan Mensah, like John Boy and others, And he said that actually he never closed the door to them. All he's doing with these two matches against Mali and Qatar is that he is trying a few new names to see if they can complement the so-called old guard as well. And that there's definitely a chance that we are going to see them when we are playing next month in the real qualifiers against Sudan. Gifty. And
let me come to George. George, so from that basis, will you blame the performance of this team? Because at the end of the day, the coach said he was just, trying to see who can do what so that they can, this is not your typical, if you like.
I agree, but what the coach and what anyone who would want to support this is missing is that in any case, Mali, we're also trying things out. Friendlies are for trying, so everybody's trying. The question is, how good are you trying? So how well are you trying? That's what everybody's talking about. So I can understand the coach saying that, okay, yes, I'm trying our players. But the other question to answer is, how much time do you have? If you have just 2 friendlies and you've got a qualifier against Sudan.
And you have to be strategic about
clearly. So he can say that, he can say that, yes, I have players, I know what they can offer. I'm bringing in this squad to decide what to do next. But remember that players have to play together and build the cohesion we're talking about. So if you are spending your time experimenting with calling players left and right, what will happen to your team when you put it together? So there were reasons why this Mali team was not even at full strength. 4 of their players, had COVID, tested positive for COVID, so they didn't play this game. In our game against Qatar today, we know 8 of the members who won the Asian Championship are not going to be part of it.
8 of the Malian...
No, 8 of the Qataris. They are the Asian champions. 8 of the players. Not playing. They are not playing today. One reason or the other, they're not playing. So I'm just trying to give you an idea of how everyone is also experimenting.
Okay.
You see, no matter how you experiment, there must be a shape, there must be a form. The core of the team must be the core of the team. The rules are the rules. We must see the Black Stars, even if we don't have the big guys, we must see them play in it. So I don't want to compare us to Germany and the likes, but when you see Germany Team B and Germany Team C, they are playing virtually the same way. The only difference is that, okay, there's no Thomas Partey there today. It's Baba Idrissi there today. So we have work to do, yes.
Yeah, so if I get what the point you're making, it's a good thing to experiment,
yes.
but at what expense?
But yes, you experiment, but there has to be a clear structure. There has to be something that we can all read through. The timing. The last game against Mali was so confused. Everything was messed up, and that's why Ghanaians are really complaining about everything that they saw. So hopefully today there can be a bit of a format.
What do you expect to see today?
A bit of a format. Yeah, I'm expecting that there can be a bit of a format. He's realized it. I don't know what happens to Lawrence Atizigi, the goalkeeper. He's out today. Razaka Balora has been given an opportunity. We're still seeing a lot of defenses. Up to 5 changes already by Coach Siki Akono, because the psyche for Coach Siki Akono is also this. If he loses his second game, then Ghanaians will be like, you took over the Black Stars. You lost the first game and you lost this one. Now look at the narrative before this game that Qatar are not at full strength.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Ghanaians will say, this one you have to score. You have to win by 8-9. You are fighting against 2 things. When sports journalists are dealing with this, we're able to try and understand it from a football perspective and get things in. But look, there must be a design to what we are doing today. Players must show that they are hungry, and more importantly, we must get a bit of, or the Ghanaians need a bit of confidence that CK can do the job. Already the technical director, the new technical director, Bernard Lepet, has spoken, and in his words, we're not compact. That has its own political. Look at guys now.
So in fixing that problem, which first of all, the coach has admitted, both of you have spoken to. I want you to deal with the tactical plan which you mentioned. Like I won't be able to ask you perhaps any further follow-up questions that will punch holes into your analysis maybe. But then what is the tactical plan that for you didn't work? And what should be done to make it work this time around?
I see that the first game players were played out of position. It was difficult. A number of players were played out of position, and that was the first thing that needs. Yeah, that's the first thing that he needs to rectify. I see that being rectified a bit. I'm waiting for the team to walk up on the pitch, then I can be sure. But seeing the likes of Baba Idrissi likely to play alongside Thomas Partey, it's sounding like it. Players moving back into the lateral defense, and I'm seeing that, okay, yeah, Razaka Balora is a goalkeeper who will be able to command his area. I was a bit disappointed with Atizigi's failure to command his area. We want to see a goalkeeper who can command his area. Yes, Richard Ofori is not there, but I want to see that. if we're able to play the players in position, it's easy, you see. And there's another thing about this team we're not even talking about. Yes, I've done the story about Thomas Partey. I met the father and everything. We have to make our our big boys look good. And in the last game, Thomas Partey was lost because he was confused about what to do. Initially, he was supposed to play up in attack and support the team. Then he realized that, no, the guys behind me are not even bringing the ball, so I have to go back. At the end of the game, he was almost defending. Yes.
It doesn't matter how well you play as an individual.
That is what I'm saying.
If you're not getting the team.
If Dede Ayew is not going to work out on the wing, don't put Dede Ayew on the wing and expose Dede Ayew. You know what Dede Ayew has been doing out there in Swansea. You can bring him right behind the strikers, let it go, and make things easier for yourself. Okay, I understand it's Siki Akono. Yes, he's trying to look at a few things, and I don't always want to appear like I know too much than the coach. So I allow the coach to do what he wants to do.
I mean,
and
it's your thoughts. It's your thoughts as a sports journalist.
So basically, I'm saying, let the players do what they know how to do in their right positions, and it makes the job much easier. So
playing in position is what you think will work for us going into this game. Gary, I want your thoughts on this one as well.
Yes. In addition to that, there was something, Gifty, the great thing is that CK makes our job easier by being very candid about the failures or the failings of the team in the first game. So he mentioned also that, being organized means that players move in a certain way that has been pre-discussed before the match. That's what being organized means. So that when you lose the ball, the coach has told you before the game that when you lose the ball, you, Gifty, stand here. George, stand here.
Okay.
Gary, stand here. That is what being organized means. Now, he says they were not organized because he told player A stand here, but player A was standing there.
Okay.
So, the 30 million Ghanaian coaches then said, but if player A is not standing there, whose job is it? Why you come to tell us? Yes. But it's not that simple.
Yeah.
Again, because of the factors that we have spoken about, that sometimes, yes, players take your instruction, but when they get there, and that is why, especially for a new coach, it takes time. Because, and I like to, especially for general news programs, I like to use the war analogy. When you go into a battle and a general says, you, the soldier, do this and do that, and you don't do it, but you come back alive, in the next battle, what does he do? He will punish you by not taking you to the war. In the same way, Siki Akono has made 5 changes today. So the assumption is that he is changing some of his soldiers who did not play to instruction and giving new soldiers an opportunity to try and listen to the instruction. That is why we all hope for an improved performance. In addition to that, Jordan Ayew, as one of the senior players now, even though he's only 28, has also come out to candidly say that, look, we are all professionals and we know when we don't do well. We are aware we didn't do well. And so that is why we have the sense that all of them know that because they didn't do well, they should do better. So they know they were not organized.
Yeah.
They know they were played out of position. And they know that they did not press the opposition enough to get the ball.
Not hard enough.
We are hoping that when the game kicks off in 5 minutes, they'll do better.
Your analogy about the war, though brings my attention to something I wanted us to discuss. Ayew, Andre Ayew. Isn't the job of the captain to keep that order on the pitch when the coach, after the coach has gone through all of this with you, to sit back and have the captain on the pitch do his job as well? Before you answer that, I'd like to for us to play this piece that you put together on him, on Andre Ayew, and then when we come back, we'll talk about that. We'll take it from there. So that was before the game. Gary, I take your thought, and I'll come to George about what was the role of the captain if the coach said, I told you to do this and do that, and you didn't.
Well, in using the analogy, it sounds that simple, but however, it is not that simple because one player can only be on one end of the pitch at a point in time. So in modern day football, in fact, a lot of coaches usually select mini captains all over the pitch. So Andre Ayew, for example, is a midfielder, right?
Yeah.
Among the midfield, his job may be to organize his people there. So you find a lot of coaches also selecting a leader in defense so that he selects somebody who has charisma or is an organizer, and then that person will organize the people at the back with the assumption that Andre Ayew or whoever the captain cannot be on the pitch all the time 100%. And then the strikers too, same analogy. So yes, in theory, it is Andre's job to organize people, but in practice, it always does not work that way.
I see. Okay, George?
Yeah, I think he's just right. And sometimes you want to look at the players at club level and say, okay, well, they're performing well at club level and not doing the same at national team. But it's very, very different. The dynamics are different. Sometimes it's even the case that the captain himself is running out of gas. He needs help himself, you know. And so it's not as easy as going down onto the pitch and, you know, screaming the instructions. Obviously, we have a charismatic captain, and he will try to put in the information as much as possible. Being a national team. That's why I pray for. That's why I pray for CK all the time.
Yeah, because I'm going to ask. I was going to ask: is that hurting or helping us? Managing the Eagles.
Yeah, it depends on how you go about it. Of course, it's a friendly game. So if it's your first game and you're handling the team, and you've decided that no, my captain must play to the end of the game, that's fine. But you have to be careful when you're doing that. You know, because you, the coach, when you lose the game, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Gary wanted to jump in there with something. Gary.
Yes, and a quick thing as well. Just like, again, in war, there are different kinds of generals. There are different kinds of captains. So, for example, let's use our own Ghanaian situation. In 2010, when everybody was happy, you know, we got to the quarterfinal, it came out after the tournament that even though, for example, in the lead up to that tournament and all that, still tell this person to do this, do that, and he will clearly relay the message.
And is this something that you discuss? You have a pre-discussing with the captain so that everybody is, because that could also hurt your
but it's something that's discussed. I mean, in Liverpool, they all know that Firmino has a proper thinking.
Okay, and I'll take your final thoughts on, you know, what you think are at stake, you know, for this particular game. But we also have something on Partey, Thomas Partey, and you said you indicated that you may play very well, and everybody is hailing this guy right now, but you say he got lost on the pitch.
He got lost because the system did not favor him.
I just want us to take a look at the video you put together, and then we'll talk about him to wrap up.
So this is the Manchester Israel School and the school park. Thomas Partey started schooling here and started playing football on this park. He has moved from Atletico Madrid to Arsenal, and if there is a party somewhere, it surely must start right here in Kroboland. Party after party! 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 And yes, the party knows no end. 7 days after Thomas Partey sealed his move to Arsenal from Atletico Madrid. While many Arsenal fans and their new converts anticipate Partey's debut in an Arsenal jersey soon, the people of Manya Krobo and the whole of Kroboland feel they cannot be left out of a party that belongs to them.
It's always about Manchester United matches, Chelsea. Arsenal has fewer supporters, but with Partey at the center, at the heart of Arsenal right now, trust me, I'm sure that match centers are going to be flowing with Partey jerseys and all those stuff.
First time I heard him playing at ATM. Yeah, so I supported ATM. Though initially I was a Barcelona fan, but as he moved to ATM, I supported ATM to now. But now he has moved to Arsenal.
So are you moving again?
Now I've moved to Arsenal because of him. Around the whole world, people will criticize him, but he should improve match upon match.
I never doubted Partey playing top football. So I don't feel too much surprised, as I said earlier on. The news really hit Kroboland as a surprise, because some people had some hitches that he was moving to Chelsea, and then you know that Chelsea fan base in Kroboland, especially in Ghana, is very large. So the expectation was that he was going to Chelsea, but he ended up at Arsenal, and then we are okay. We are happy with that.
I want him to be a star among all the players at Arsenal. So if you are hearing me, I mean Sankara, I wish you a good luck.
With Partey, this year or next year, Arsenal is going to win the league. Yeah, in England, because Partey is coming to prove to the English Premier League as a champion in Spain.
And as you may have suspected, The joy of a man whose son is involved cannot be measured. Party
after party, party after party, after party. So the party after party, that was what I became so overwhelmed to the extent that I was thinking it was maybe some of their friends. So it was party after party's junior brother. So after party, another junior brother party. And then
you yourself, the big party.
I'm there. I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah. So have you learned how to sing the song, or you are still rehearsing?
Oh, I think it's simple. Party after party. Party after party. Yes.
Yeah. Jacob Tay Partey, father of the new Arsenal signing Thomas Partey, joined the Joy Transfer Countdown show from his room on transfer deadline day and told me a morning of anxiety and uncertainty climaxed with the biggest news of his life. So, transfer deadline day, the Joy News channel was on.
Yeah.
You're watching.
Yes.
What was happening with you and your wife as you were watching us do the show?
Actually, she asked me, am I sure? But I was bold.
Yeah.
Yes, I said, surely.
Sure.
Yeah, he'll be moving. Surely he'll be moving. Yeah, because already I said, son, go for money. Yeah, I think I was bold enough just to be hoping on that.
That's going to happen.
Yeah. My wife said, okay.
And finally on the show, we just indicated that Arsenal has now tweeted that your son is an Arsenal boy.
Yeah. Actually, was it, he made that statement and then some pictures came.
Yes, some pictures
came. But it was not among.
Okay, the first one, the first one.
Yes, it was not among.
Yes.
And then, we were surprised.
Yes.
Meanwhile, I told my wife, he will be coming.
He'll be coming soon.
Yeah, because the way the Arsenal fans were calling and JoyNews group
were also doing at
the stage.
They're believing it.
I told my wife, let us keep cool and wait.
That's right. The party is on, Gary. There you go.
There you go. So Arsenal make it official. Thomas Partey is the second Ghanaian to play for Arsenal Football Club.
Then we started to dance.
After everything was sealed, what did you tell your son when you spoke to him?
Now, what I've seen in the papers, they have carried some big bag and put it at your back. Yes. That is money, but that is not all. Yes. You have to keep on training seriously. Because what I've know about some past time, the players that got flopped, it was when they get the money, they start going to beaches, hotels, and so forth, chasing ladies and so forth. Yeah. So my advice is you should keep on training seriously. Yes, because there are challenges ahead.
So the countdown is on to what could be Partey's first game in an Arsenal shirt against Manchester City after the international break. For now, joining the Gunners is the latest swag in Ghana, with Thomas Partey at the center of it all.
So that's a beautiful piece put together. That got me really excited. My daughter Junior there. But let's wrap up our conversation. The game has already started. And let me take that final word from Gary. Gary, let's make it pretty quick for those who want to watch the game, but so we also continue. Your final thoughts. What's at stake as we go away?
Well, at the moment, I don't think anything is at stake. It's not as dramatic as that.
Okay.
We are building towards having a better team, really. And the aim for CK Accra is to win a trophy for us. So if today will be another building block towards ultimately winning the trophy, that's fine by me. But definitely, we need an improved performance, Gifty. And that's
improved performance. We see how that goes. George?
I sometimes like it when the team loses because it gives the coach an idea that there's a lot of work to be done. So he must sit up and do the work. Ultimately, I hope we have a good game. And for Coach CK Akona's sake, as a coach, let's get a good result so we can get the job done. Great stuff.
Thank you. George Addo Jr. and Gary Al Smith, you certainly love them if you love sports here in this country. So the game has already started. We'll be monitoring to see how it goes. This is still the pause with me, Gifty and Dopia. Today we do have a lot on our plate, by the way. On Thursday, there was a big debate. And ahead of that big debate, I'm engaging the CPP's presidential candidate, Ivor Greenstreet, who will also be talking about their policy and governance alternatives as we go into the election. Just stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Well, it's less than 2 months to the 2020 elections, and already the country has witnessed a number of security issues threatening the peace ahead of the polls. Armed robbers have struck a number of times. One of them left an MP dead. In other instances, a bullion van was attacked on a highway, killing one person and injuring another. Just this weekend, family of Takwan Suaye Member of Parliament George Mirkuduka came under attack from unknown men, leaving them seriously injured. At the weekend, the Ghana Revenue Authority confirmed the seizure of large cache of arms destined for Ghana. It had been concealed in a container marked household items. We'll bring you updates on all these stories, but let's take you to the central region now, where President Akufo-Addo has been commiserating with family members of the slain Member of Parliament. Richard Kojo-Nyakon is joining me via Zoom for that one. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Gifty.
Richard, what is happening right now? Has the president been there already?
Yes, the president has come here and has left. He came to commiserate with the family of the slain MP. The wife of the late MP was there, as well as the children. President Akufo-Addo has assured them that government is going to take care of them, the wife, and then the two children. And he has tasked the IGP to, at all costs, find the perpetrators of the killers of the MP. And government is going to ensure that everything would be done to ensure that justice is done. And so the president has left. He came in the company of the regional minister, as well as other government, was leading the government delegation. In a short while, the family house will also be receiving the Speaker of Parliament. He will be approaching here any moment from now.
I'll come to you shortly, Richard. Don't go yet, but let's listen to the president, who has been speaking to the family members. That's President Akufo-Addo there addressing the family members of the slain Member of Parliament there. Richard Kojo-Nyakon has been following up on that story for us. He's still there. Richard, I know you mentioned a few of the things that the president said, but for those who don't understand what he has just said, can you give us a brief translation before we go ahead?
So what the president has been saying is that the death of the MP has really hit him very hard, and is not really only a loss of the family, it's a loss to the entire country and this particular government in general. The president says that he had very good plans for this member of parliament. In fact, he was one of the people that he had planned elevating. So we do not know whether minister, but he says that the family still stands by whatever the government stands by whatever the family would do. This Thursday would be the 1 week celebration, or it will be the celebration of the 1 week. And the president will not be here in the central region, but he tasked the regional minister to ensure that whatever the family needs, the family would get it. And so that is briefly what the president has been saying.
Well, Richard, as we speak to you, we've seen some buses pull up, and I assume those are buses bringing the members of parliament led by the speaker himself?
Exactly. So the Speaker of Parliament just arrived. There are also some MPs and ministers of state who've joined the Speaker to come and commiserate with the family. In the family house is the wife of the late MP, as well as the children and the mother of the MP. And so the Speaker just arrived. Very shortly, we'll be listening to him, what he has for the family.
So, Richard, let me leave you to it whilst you get to the Speaker of Parliament to hear what he is also saying and what the other members of Parliament will say. Richard, thank you. We'll come back to you in due course. In the meantime, Chairman of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee is allaying fears of what he calls a growing sense of insecurity. He's been talking to us.
No, I think that I must admit that when people get discomforted about recent events, it is justified. However, I must admit that we are enjoying some safety and some security in our jurisdiction. And I'll maintain that those that have occurred necessarily do not erode the gains we have made. And I am very much gladdened that at least the security services, we were able to track the exact consignment until we got the sidearms. You know, sidearms importation is quite difficult for any person to obtain permit to, import sidearms. I mean, shotguns, pistols that you put by yourself are sidearms. So it is not easy for any person to import sidearms and add the ammunition into the country to the tune of 136 is absurd. And so we are watching. At least it tells you that the intelligence is working. Wherever the items were shipped out from, and before it got into Ghana, customs will not just mark it. In the intelligence community, once intelligence is leaked out, they wait and monitor. So once they found out that particular, and you see, it came under the disguise of door-to-door. And so you should know that certainly our intelligence is on top. And anything that happens that way demonstrates to you that at least there's some level of comfort.
Seth Champon is chairman of the Defence and Interior Committee, speaking about some arms that were confiscated at the Tema port. That's the story that's still developing. We'll bring you more on it as and when we have it. Now, strengthening land rights, climate change adaptation initiatives, and gender-responsive budgeting in many African countries such as Ghana. Gender discrimination in land ownership rights and access have prevailed over the period. The situation has prevented women farmers or female farmers and their communities from realizing their full potential and contributed to sustainable and how it can contribute to sustainable development. And that has also been aggravated by the impact of climate change, which include changing rainfall patterns, causing reduction in agriculture production and reducing food security. Now, despite the many benefits that can be derived from strengthening land rights, climate change adaptation, etc., the fact still remains that more action needs to be taken to the challenges or to deal with the challenges that persist. So as we look at commemorating International Day of Rural Women and addressing these concerns on the show, I have Lois Ejiamwa Ado. She's with WellDuff. She's a programs director for WellDuff. So, Lois, it's good to have you. And I was asking you, good afternoon, I was asking you behind the scenes earlier, what is a group like WorldUp? You know, we know you're more into the legal area, doing with rural or female farmers.
Okay, so I'll say that this on Thursday we have a policy dialogue, and it is about Oxfam and its group partners, which WorldUp is an organizational partner.
Okay.
So it's not only about WorldUp, but it's about a number of partners working within the agricultural environment, and we are trying to ensure that we advance the rights and opportunities that are in there for rural women. And you ask, what is WorldUp doing with, because it's about a legal organization, but we forget that in all these environments, law cannot be taken out. When we talk about rural women, we are talking about their livelihood, we are talking about their rights. And when it gets to rural, it's about land. And land is more of a legal issue. When we talk about land, we talk about land rights. So that's one area that WorldUp is, one key program area that WorldUp advocates around, and we find it very critical to be part of Oxfam partners in ensuring that the rural women are not left behind.
Okay. Yeah. So can we talk about the specific things or the specific interventions that you're looking at doing for this group of women?
So Oxfam Group Partners work in 3 key intervention areas. We are talking about climate change adaptation and opportunities for rural women. We are looking at rural women's land rights, and we are looking at investments within the agri sector, looking at the oil reserves, the oil funding in respect to the management of our oil reserves. So how much is used to promote the agri sector? Yeah, so budgeting, gender responsive budgeting.
And how well are the women represented in all of these? I mean, sometimes you can say women or female farmers, but how are you targeting them? And you can have a female farmer sitting somewhere who says, well, I don't know about this program. Are you working through the organizations that represent, say, Peasant Farmers Association, for example? How are you targeting these women?
Okay, so, you know, the group partners are composed of organizations such as Peasant Farmers Association. We are looking at WorldUp, that is Women in Law and Development in Africa. We are looking at Send Ghana. We are looking at Civil Society Coalition on Land. We are looking at Pasgaru, we are looking. So these organizations that work at the grassroots and at the national level, we have engagement with these women. And over the years, we've been undertaking a number of activities and programs that seeks to address the issues that affects them. And so over, we have undertaken a number of research, and we find Thursday, which is the day for international,
Thursday is the day for the commemoration of the day itself. Okay. So are you doing anything specific on that day?
Yes. So it is a policy dialogue where we want to be able to present. It's an interface meeting with policy actors, share the issues that are affecting the women we've been engaging over the years with policy makers, and then see how they could be able to position themselves better to support these women. I won't say we have reached out to all rural women, but we're looking at the different organizations and our mandates. We are really reaching out to most of them that we have really engaged over the years. Yeah.
Well, let's wrap up with what exactly your research found. I mean, you said that you've had this conversation that is helping to deal with this policy. What did you find?
So I'll start with our key mandates within land rights. We found out that looking at the agri sector contributes about 38.3% of the economy. That's we have 3 sectors: the industry, the agri, and then the service. And agri contributes over 38%. And within this 38%, women farmers contribute 50 to 60% of the labor force.
I see.
But they are, when it gets to land, they own, there is very negligible, and you can never suppose that you're a farmer if you don't own a land. So over the years, we've been advocating for strengthening women's land rights. If we really want to be able to withstand pandemics such as COVID-19, we need to ensure that these women are secured in their environment. When it gets to climate change, we know the changing patterns, and very much these investments do not reach out to women, the women in the sector, and they are not part of the strategies in ensuring that the adaptation is able to meet the adaptation strategies. So how do we ensure that investments government investments within the on climate change are able to gender sensitive.
Yeah,
and then
so
the oil reserves, how much is invested when it gets to issues on gender responsive budgeting. So these are the 3 areas we want to engage government on and ensure that we are not just, I mean, in terms of development, these people who
leaving
feed us,
behind.
yes,
we're not
are
leaving
left
them
behind.
That's right.
And
That's right.
The team for this year is
Thursday.
ensuring that we are building back the resilience of rural women in the face of COVID-19.
Building back the resilience of rural women in the face of COVID-19. You're having that meeting on Thursday.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So hopefully you'll be able to raise these issues with
our research findings and ensuring that they are on the table. Their issues are part of the decision making in our government.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. It's very easy to sort of push some of these things under the carpet because you don't see the effect immediately. Yeah. But it's important to address them. Lois, thank you very much for coming through. And then we wish you all the best with that meeting on Thursday.
Thank you, too.
That you're expected to have. Lois Edu Amwa Ado is the program director with Build Up. And on Thursday, they've done some research. They're looking to put together the findings and present them to policymakers. And the point or the bottom line is they want more intervention for women in farming or rural women in farming so that government's policies can support those people. It's still Paul Megifty and up here. We turn after this break shortly, and I have the CPP's presidential candidate. Your questions, your thoughts, they're all welcome. Welcome back to the show, and many thanks for staying with us. Now, all is set for the debate among presidential candidates for the minority political parties ahead of the general elections in December. JoyNews, in collaboration with Imani Center for Policy and Education, has put together an event dubbed Minority Political Parties Election Debate. Now, that event is scheduled to take place at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, UPSA, at 8 p.m. on Thursday, and is expected to help peruse the policies and commitment of candidates outside the remit of the governing New Patriotic Party and the biggest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress. They have a tendency to overshadow all the conversation. Now, today, we begin the build-up with a candidate for the Convention People's Party, CPP, Ivor Kobna Greenstreet, a man who needs no introduction to this debate. He is our guest on the post today. It's good to have you, Mr. Greenstreet.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I remember the last time I spoke to you. That's a long time ago. I can't even remember when.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Maybe because I see you all the time on the screen, I'm assuming I'm speaking to you.
I guess so. It happens all the time. So how are the campaigns going? The CPP started pretty
50 something days to go.
Yes.
Well, actually, we didn't start too late in the sense that we had done much of our organization early at the polling station, electoral area, and constituency level. All our regional congresses and everything had been conducted last year. But COVID, kind of disrupted our processes and, a few internal issues and some financial challenges. But all the same, we believe we have the best alternative policies that can rescue this country from the situation that it finds itself in at the moment.
Internal issues and financial situation that you talk about. I want us to maybe look at this conversation in, let's say, 3 key blocks. So first of all, we look at the party and how it is doing. Yes. We look at the governance or the policy alternatives that you are presenting, for which reason you want Ghanaians to take you seriously as against the NPP or the NDC or any of the other political parties. And then we look at the election trends and maybe do look at the projections. So
I think I'm happy with your thematic areas.
Thank you. We'll see how that goes. So let's break it down. Let's start a little bit about the party. Like I said, the CPP, people have said, has almost died with the founder, Kwame Nkrumah. People have said that, why aren't we having that CPP? And you indicated that you've had interviews where people have asked you, you've gone out where people have asked you, where is the CPP that will deliver the people? Where is that party?
On the contrary, the first, I don't want to use a strong word like fallacy in what you have just said.
It's okay.
Is that the CPP was in office, actually. between 1979 to 1981 until it was overthrown, just that it could not be called the Convention People's Party because the party name had been banned after the 1966 coup, which is why after even the return to constitutional rule in 1992, you had a number of different parties, NCP, NIP and other parties, who claimed the root or the strand from the original Convention People's Party. Obviously that was done on purpose to prevent that large party, that only party which is the legitimate guardian of Nkrumahism in this country, the only party which actually puts Ghana first, the only party which does not believe in tribal world banks, the only party that believes in utilizing the collective wealth of the nation for the benefit of the people. If you look at the last 28 years since the 1992 Constitution has come in and we've had 4 different governments of the NDC and the NPP, if we have over 50% unemployment of children between the ages of 18 to 34, clearly something they're doing is wrong. Obviously within that intervening period, there have been a number of coalesces of the CPP tradition. First it moved to PCP, then it moved to Convention Party. It was only until the 1999 or so the Convention People's Party actually got its name back.
Beautiful accolades there, but where is it? Are we feeling it? We're not feeling it.
Well,
Let's start with the
there's
way
much more. There's much more. I agree with you. There's much more that has to be done.
And I wanted to start looking at it from the way you have performed, for example, in previous elections.
Yes.
In 2004, you yourself you were the parliamentary candidate for Iwaso West Legon.
You've gone deep into the history books.
You weren't successful there. In 2000.
But what you have to understand.
Let me just wrap it up.
No, let me intervene as you go along. What you have to understand is during that election, I think that the Convention People's Party candidate prior to me in the 2000 election had garnered something like 450 votes. When I became the candidate, I garnered more than 4,900 votes, more than 2,000 or 3,000 percentage increase in points. In the first past the post electoral system, sometimes you can get somebody get 18,000 votes and still lose the contest. So the fact is how you observe or what you determine it actually reflects what reflects victory.
Okay.
For me, the vote
that was victory. Okay,
yeah.
I was just using that. I was just building up to where we are.
Okay, I want to interrupt you.
That's
again.
okay, and how the CPP has performed.
Yes.
So, if you look at 2004 and your inability to, take the seat for the party, you look at 2016 as a flag bearer, you polled some 25,552 votes, which was, it sounds a lot, but when you put it in the scheme of
also an increase from the 2012
I'll just put the question together so you respond to it. So you had some 25,000 plus votes, which was cool. But then exactly, because if you put it in percentage terms and you want to compare with what was at stake, you had 0.24 or 24%, which is totally negligible. 2020, the party poll, you polled, when you did your internal elections, you polled about 1,364. So at that level, it seems to be working for you. But on the national level, looking at the trend, this is certainly not working for the CPP.
So a lot more has to be done. And that is why I explained to you earlier, we have done a huge amount of reorganization at the polling station level, at the electoral level, and also at the constituency level. If you look at 2016, when the current president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, was attempting for the 3rd time to become the presidential candidate, president of the Republic of Ghana, you would have noticed that there was a huge swing in his favor because of the fact that the people of Ghana were tired with the performance of the NDC, which meant that even the NDC themselves went down by over 1 million votes and were defeated at that election. Of course, there's still a huge gap in terms of what we have to do to make it up. But research that even Joy FM, I believe, has conducted, or other surveys which have been conducted, demonstrate that now there are about 20 to 30% of Ghanaians who are tired of the NDC and the NPP and are actually significantly looking for an alternative.
But they don't have that alternative in the CPP.
Well, the point is, we are now representing ourselves in this election to be that alternative. Those numbers were not the case in 2016. In 2016, there was a huge swing in favor of the NPP. They came up with a lot of promises, a lot of hopes for the people of Ghana. Many Ghanaians feel that they have entirely failed in the delivery of those promises to the people, in terms of it being reflected in their daily lives, in terms of it being reflected in the hope that they have for their families and their communities. So we feel re-energized, rather we feel re-hopeful about how we can go about prosecuting our agenda for the 2020 election. And we believe it is the policies and principles of the Conventional People's Party, which are entirely an alternative type of policy. It being a socialist party, it being a party with entirely alternative policies, which we believe actually are the only policies that can deliver this nation.
And trust me, we'll go into the policies. We'll have a little bit of time to go into the policies and see how or what alternatives you're presenting. Yes. But then why should a party that goes to Congress less than, say, I think 3 months to the election, why should or any Ghanaian voter, why should any Ghanaian voter take that party seriously and say that this is a party that's ready to take on a party like the NPP or the NDC?
When did NPP go to their Congress to, well, not elect, to endorse the sitting president as their candidate, also delayed because of COVID?
They have very little challenge. They had to endorse.
You're talking about dates. So I've indicated to you that well throughout 2019, we had completed all our regional congresses. This was not a last-minute congress we came to come and do based on a rushed activity at the local level. No, we had been highly organized. We've done a massive amount of reorganization at the polling station, constituency, electoral area, and the regional level. All of those elections have been conducted well before 2020. But at the beginning of 2020, there were some unfortunate hiccups that took place. But that did not disrupt the kind of reorganization and activities that we were engaged in. And we believe, with a great deal of confidence, that wherever we go, and once again I allude to your surveys, that most Ghanaians are entirely dissatisfied
they
with the duopoly.
They are entirely dissatisfied. That's the point you have made.
We agree on something.
But the point is, are they ready for a party like the CPP? Wouldn't you say that the CPP, for example, has lost touch? Ghanaians have lost touch with the ideals of the original CPP, and that's why they're not ready for a party like yours.
Within this short period of time, we will do everything we can to prove to them, beyond all reasonable doubt, that the current policies that they have been deciding to choose for the last 28 years, if they have rendered 5 million Ghanaians to be without toilets, if it has rendered a quarter of women under the age of 18 still getting pregnant, if it has rendered millions of Ghanaians to be unemployed, then they themselves, the first answer to the question they pose to they themselves as they think of who to vote for should be, should I vote for NDC or should I vote for MPP? Certainly the answer that we believe they're telling themselves is no. Therefore, who do I vote for? And it is in that space that we'll be presenting entirely different policies, programs to take this country forward. Policies which have been ignored and policies which we believe are the only recipe to take a developing country out of the situation that it finds itself in.
You seem to think that this is the timing, or there is a certain timing about the 2020 elections that will work in favor of the CPP.
The results shall be the evidence. But we shall do our work and present our case to the people of Ghana.
And presenting your case, I want us to now look at the other set of questions that I have, or the next block of, if you like, thematic area that I have, which is the governance and or policy alternatives that the CPP is presenting to the people of Ghana. Let's begin with education. Better still, let's begin with safety and security, which is one of the biggest issues we're dealing with right now. Recently, and just before we went on the break and came back, we did a story about how, that people seem to be having a sense of insecurity, a growing sense of insecurity. Just last week, there were some arms confiscated by the customs at the Tema port. Apart from that, a member of parliament was shot and killed in what the police is treating as an armed robbery case. The police is still investigating that as an armed robbery case. Apart from that, there were other attacks or robbery attacks that had gone the previous week. There are people, Professor Bene, who was killed in his home. You have JB Dankwa-Edu's death, which has not been unraveled. So there seem to be, especially the minority has called it a growing sense of insecurity. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we don't have to turn ourselves also into alarmists. An MP is not being killed every week. And they're not people rampaging around the streets of our urban areas and rural areas, slashing people to bits on a daily basis. But yes, there is a heightened degree of tension, and there have been some unfortunate, terrible incidents which have fed into this situation whereby we all do feel a bit unsafe, particularly on roads, traveling around from town to town around the country. And so therefore, it behoves on our security apparatus, which I believe are highly trained and well qualified and capable of discharging their duties well, to obviously intensify, number one, their intelligence gathering, intensify the capacity that they have internally, and to meet their growing threat that clearly is occurring in our towns and villages all across the country. And I believe that being patriotic citizens, and I believe that the state will make the necessary resources available, that they will attempt to do what they can to defeat this scourge of recent dastardly crimes that have been committed around the country. Nobody is happy about the situation. Nobody would wish it to continue. And so we all have our duty to also play as citizens to assist those various authorities with the information and with our own support to enable them to carry out their duties effectively.
Do you feel that there is enough public confidence in the security agencies for that to happen? What you've just said to happen? Well,
I think certainly the level of confidence should be much higher. I think that the level of confidence is quite low at the moment because of the repeated number of incidents. So they have to do certain things to demonstrate that they are on top of their work, on top of their job, and therefore the level of confidence will increase because people will feel and see their presence and see the activities they're engaged in to demonstrate that level of confidence. I think only last weekend or weekend before, the police engaged in an exercise to attempt... They called
confidence building.
Well, obviously it hasn't worked because since then there have been these incidents. But, crime is not something that, just goes away overnight. So intelligence gathering is the key, and clearly that's one of the things that we saw with this recent incident in the Volta region. Yeah. Clearly there seems to be either a lapse in intelligence gathering or a lapse in utilization of intelligence that was gathered to react to an unfortunate situation. And so the people of Ghana need to have confidence, and it's a duty of these institutions to provide us with that confidence. Otherwise, things will only get worse, and we don't want things to get worse, we want things to get better. Your initial comments seeks to suggest that what's happening, especially, for example, the killing of the Member of Parliament, are pretty isolated cases. Is that this is the sense I'm getting? Well, am I right? How many cases have we had of a murdered MP this year? It's not about the MPs, but it's about the number of people who are being killed and the number of cases that are You mentioned the MP in particular, so that is why... As one of the recent cases. Yes. No, but clearly there are lots of incidents of crime and violent crime, which is very wide. So it's not an isolated case? It's not an isolated case. No, they're not isolated cases. There's a growing trend, obviously, that's taking place. I think we've had lots of robberies and incidents on roads, even between Accra and Kumasi and elsewhere, and in the past, they've had to set up barriers, they've had to escort people, from, let's say, Kintampo to Tamale, and clearly it's on the rise. So that is what I'm talking about in terms of intelligence gathering and knowing what these groups and these criminals are up to, and dealing with it before it becomes a problematic situation. So from what I'm gathering from what you said, there seemed to have been either a lapse in intelligence or lack of our ability to use the intelligence, whatever it is, if we had it. And I'm wondering, and you've also indicated that there is low public confidence in the security agencies. You think that we could do something to make it go up. You want to be president of this country. If you were president right this minute, and security is a very technical area. You don't just look at it on the surface of things, but you have people briefing you. If you were president, what will you do if you were president right now about what we're dealing with? Well, I think there have been a number of programs that have been implemented about improving intelligence gathering, and I believe that the state itself has even been given support for those activities by some foreign governments. One of the problems that we've had, particularly with intelligence gathering, is sharing of information that you gain from different institutions within the apparatus. So what someone may be able to find out at a immigration station at Elubu may not be shared with somebody at the CID headquarters in the police. What may be gathered by military intelligence may not be known by what's a border patrol in Sandema, may know. They set up a center like that. Yes, so they've now So those types of interventions to improve what the good works that are being done, but tying those bits of intelligence information are key. And it is that investment in intelligence, investment in technology, investment in capacity building, investment in training, which I think would improve our capacity to react to these kinds of situations that we find ourselves in at the moment.
Do you think that the NPP is handling it the way it should? The NPP administration is handling the security situation, looking back at the secessionist attacks, the robberies, resourcing of the police or resourcing of the security agencies. Do you think?
Well, I certainly don't think they have a pass mark. I think they're below 50%, and I think they have
to... You put them below 50%?
Yes, I put them below 50%, which means that they're maybe doing something, because I think in some examinations, even 40 or even 40% may be a pass mark. However...
40 is a fail.
Yes, well, they're not doing enough, and I believe that far more have to. And I'm sure they themselves will recognize it. I think at a point in time, they even had some kind of ministerial reshuffle. They added a Minister of State of
the Minister of State
Interior. They have a whole series of national security appointees, and at a point in time,
we have a national security minister. We have a minister for interior. We have the Minister of State in charge of the interior at the interior, which is Brian Achampong. And are you saying? We don't. I mean, people made arguments earlier.
The evidence,
but they're certainly working. That's why they've said that we could have been in a worse position.
Well, that may be the case if you want to do comparative analysis with other countries. If you look at what's happening in Burkina Faso and Mali and elsewhere, clearly they're in a far worse situation than we are here. But that doesn't mean that we have to judge ourselves against lower standards. You know, Ghana, we wish to judge ourselves according to higher standards, and we wish to do far better and even be the best. And so therefore, I think at a point in time, even the government themselves were doing assessments of ministries and different sectors and how well they were doing. I'm sure if they did their own internal assessment now, they wouldn't be getting very good assessment figures for their performance thus far.
Okay.
I think we've had issues of vigilantism and all these kinds of things which have taken place as well, which are things that we would not want, especially as we are moving closer to a period where there's going to be greater tension and the possibility of outbreaks of violence. These are the last things we want to see. We want to see fairness, we want to see transparency, we want to see an even hand and a level playing field in all of the activities that are engaged in. So
that 50 or the below 50% that you say, is that for only security or for the general?
Well, I think we're talking about security.
We are talking about, so that's for only security. And if I got what you said earlier correctly, what you would have done if you were president was to work better with intelligence.
Intensify intelligence gathering, intention sharing between the various different institutions of state who, you know, it is that failure to share which has caused a lot of problems in the past, because in the information is being held by one part of the arm of government but not being shared with the other. You need to have a central focal point who can analyze this kind of data and therefore react.
I see. Apparently, I've run out of time. I don't even know how that happened. I think we just had a very short conversation. But let's look at your policy alternatives when it comes to education. The NPP has been hailed for presenting the free SHS. Everybody, a lot of people have been talking. If I would just land with my question, a lot of people have been talking about this. They say that this is great. My children are going to school and I'm not even paying anything. What is the CPP presenting that is better than the policies the NPP has in education, for example?
Point number one, we are paying for it, but it's the people of Ghana and the resources of this nation which is paying for it. But it happens to be free, which it is good. It is the Convention People's Party, which is the party which first introduced free education in this country. So if a government is introducing a very laudable policy, we would fully support it.
So you continue with the free SHS?
Not only we would continue it, our policies are free from kindergarten all the way to tertiary level. So with our policies, it's not just free SHS, it is free from kindergarten to tertiary.
I see.
Because that is the way, is even one of the ways you can explain the utilization of our beliefs of Nkrumahism or our socialist policies. Utilize the wealth of the nation, our oil, gold, gas, cocoa, timber, diamonds, bauxite, fertile land, strong human beings, for the benefit of the collective mass of the people. You concentrate on collective wealth for the collective benefit of the people of Ghana. And that is what free SHS does, and that is what free education, which we would be employing, does from kindergarten to tertiary. You give people the opportunity who ordinarily would not have access to those skills training and education.
To go through it. I've run out of time. I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk about health and transportation as well, but we don't have the time to go. I want you to wrap up on that, but there'll be more time to talk about
when
this.
Are you inviting me back
on Thursday. On Thursday,
Thursday's
at
the
debate. Yes. So which will allow you to put forward your thoughts. But we'll wrap up. I mean, I wanted to look at projections. 2020 projections. You think you do better than 0.24%?
Projections?
Yes.
Well, one of the first things we'll be doing is changing the name of Jubilee House, not even to Flagstaff House. We'll be changing it to Ghana House or Ghana Fie, or it's on Accra land, Ghana Shia, to unite the people of this country for one common destiny and a new way forward, instead of all this division and rancor that we see in our politics.
Do you have an idea what
government of all inclusiveness.
Do you have an idea what percentage you
once I'm telling you that the name is being changed, to tell you that we know we are going to what's currently called Jubilee House.
I see. Mr. Grace, it has been interesting talking to you. Unfortunately, we couldn't touch on most of the things that I wanted, but and to also take your questions, we've run out of time. But on Thursday at the UPSA, you get the chance to hear all of them on one stage. Mr. Evergreen Street himself included. Thank you so much for coming. And I have to make way for sports today with Nathaniel Attor. We'll have another conversation like this, trust me. And on Thursday, you'll be there. My name is Gifty and up here. Let's wrap it up here. There's more news at myjoyonline.com.